What's up, gang? Welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazde. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now, listen, the Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi as I say, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So, come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazde, and today I'm flying solo as part 2 of the things I wish I knew when I was you. This is like what I would tell my 20-year-old self. And so last time we talked about taking huge risks in your 20s and that, this is the right space, the right time. Today I want to talk a little bit more about, identity. And so identity is an interesting one because it's something where as we start taking risks in our lives, as we start to, start businesses or take jobs, we start to get wrapped up. Or, a lot of times people will say, oh, this is my friend Darius, he's an entrepreneur. This is my, friend Will, he's a restaurateur. Our identities start to get wrapped up around, what we do, like what is our careers. It's a way that people, they want to qualify who you are. And, being myself, being someone who really goes all in, right? In anything, I'm an all or nothing type of person, I like to say. I found that my identity up until probably the last few years, and even down a little bit to a certain degree, we're all human, right? Our ego, is how we survive, has really been victim to what I'm about to talk about, which is you are not your business. You are not your job. You are not that. It might be something you care a lot about, but that's not, you're many other things as well. If you look at me like on holistically, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a friend, I'm someone that cares about helping people. I'm a teacher to a lot of people. I'm a mentor to a lot of people. I'm, a person that likes to go to the gym. I'm a former athlete. I can go down the list. I'm a leader. I'm a person who loves thought leadership. I'm a person that's very opinionated. I'm a person with a dirty sense of humor. But I'm not just an entrepreneur. That's a really narrow definition of who I am. And I want to give an example of when I learned this the hard way. And then I want to kind of talk through some strategies that I've used to really strip this away from me being attached to the identity of my business. So for entrepreneurs listening to this, and this is really who this is mostly directed at, you are not your business. And I know that's going to be hard for some people who are like, well, that's how everyone knows me. I get that. And that's something to consider, but you are not your business, because there's a big lesson to be learned here in the event that your business doesn't survive. And there's a pretty high chance your business is not going to survive. The odds say that your business probably will either be sold or shut down or fail, one of the three. And so my first business, Twin Capital, was a super high flying business. I started when I was 25 years old, and it went from myself to about 150 employees in just under 3 years, just about 3 years time. So if you can imagine, this is in 2008. This is like not an age where someone in their mid 20s was building a high flying business. That business in particular ended up becoming, actually, if you look at over my shoulder here, that Inc. 5000 plaque to my left, I think to the right, if you're looking from a video screen, is from that business. And that was a business I started at 25. It became the number 40th fastest growing company in the US. I remember I was like, I want to have an Inc. 5000 company and I want to crack the top 100. And I ended up cracking the top 50, 2,500% revenue growth. So you can imagine 25 years old. There's not a time when there's a lot of 20-year-olds out there being entrepreneurs like it is today. It was very unusual. I was the only person I knew that was an entrepreneur. I was in San Francisco, by the way. It wasn't like I was in some random town. I was in a place that now is like, well, maybe pre-COVID was like a tech hub or an entrepreneur's hub. But back then, like that was abnormal. And so here I was with this business that literally was hiring, dozens of people every couple months, and I was CEO. I was younger than most of my employees. And I got a reputation as being this like high flying entrepreneur amongst my friends and amongst friends of friends. And in 2007, the business crashed. When the secondary markets crashed, when the subprime mortgage crisis happened, I was unfortunately a subprime mortgage lender at the time, and the business crashed. And what crashed is like probably the kindest way of putting it. The business went from $1 million a month in revenue, which it would be like almost like $1.5 million a month in revenue now. So that's a pretty badass company. It's almost a $20 million company in today's dollars, to $150,000 a month, and it happened overnight. So if you could imagine like what that looked like, it was a freaking massacre. I mean, it was like there's the fact that we didn't go out of business right away is like simply because we just ended up saving a lot of our money and burned through a ton of cash. But my identity was so wrapped up in that business because it's all I did. I spent 80 hours a week in that business for years. And it's how I was identified myself. My identity was my business. And so all of a sudden I went from, first of all, most of my employees were my friends, which is that's another lesson learned. I mean, we were young in our 20s. We were making a lot of money. We went out, we partied together. It was an amazing time. It was like the scene in the movie where we're like, what's something bad's going to happen? This is, it's like then something bad did happen, and everyone fled. Everyone ran for the hills. The people that were always inviting me to do stuff suddenly were having their own parties and not inviting me or my brother to do anything. And it was a really challenging time, personally, from an ego perspective, mentally, financially. My mental health was really bad then. And I was so wrapped up in that role. And I was like, there's people that when they wanted something from me as a CEO and as a high flying entrepreneur, they were coming to my beck. I had the line of people out the door that wanted my time. That went to crickets. And that lasted that way for years. And so I learned a really important fact, which was like, hey man, you're not your business. Like, I was still the same human as I always was, but I didn't have this thing to offer people. And so when I say like, what's the one thing I wish I knew when I was 20 years old? This is the thing that I taught at University of Texas, UT Austin, a few weeks ago, was I said, like, you're not your business. You need to never be wrapped up in your business in this way. So the exercise that I want to kind of like put you through is start thinking about all the things that you are. When people ask you what you do, I would flip the script on them and say something like, well, before we go there, why don't you tell me something you're passionate about? Why don't you tell me something that your friends love about you most? Which probably has almost nothing to do with your business. Your business is a reflection of those things potentially, but it's not going to define who you are as a human. And when you start to think about that, because at the end of the day, I know this as fact, when you're laying on your deathbed or when you're at your funeral, like, you're dead and gone, but the people that love you are there, they're not going to talk about how you were this. All they loved about you was that you were a great entrepreneur. That all they loved about you is how hard you worked in your business. They will not say that. They will say that is a reflection of you as parts of you, but they're going to talk about how you showed up and how funny you were. Hopefully, in case you're funny. In my case, hopefully they say that. In your case, you may not be funny. There'll probably be plenty of people that don't think I'm funny, but yeah, they'll talk about how you made them feel. So just remember that. That's like that great Maya Angelou quote. Like, people don't remember what you say; they made you. They remember. People will not remember what you say; they'll remember how you made them feel. The same is true of how people feel about you, right? It's how do you make them feel? This reflection is how they feel about you, which has, by the way, when you start thinking about like life in context of that, the business starts to mean a lot less, because the people that you make them feel good because of your business are probably people that you don't really care that much about. These are going to be vendors, clients, stuff like that. And even then, on a personal level, if that's all there is, that's very transactional and that's not going to connect with you. So, I want to kind of make a point there that fast forward, when I built TMS, the next business, I've had a different viewpoint around this. And I heard this story that really helped kind of solidify this for me, which was, there was a person, I can't remember, it was like the head of the Secretary of State, and he had been invited to this conference to speak. And when he was head of the Secretary of State, or he had this really high position in government, but it was really, really high. He like limo picks him up. They take him into the green room. There's food and drink, and everyone's like at his beck and call. And it was like first class everything. And he gets brought in and huge standing ovations, this, that, and the other. and he leaves. And then, a year or two later, he comes back. He's invited back to speak. He's no longer has this high level position. And no limo picked him up. He had to find his own way to the event. There was no one greeting him there. He didn't have the room with the fancy gift baskets. He had, just a little room with, I think, a cup. They offered him coffee. He didn't have the beautiful mug that he had the first time around. They gave him a styrofoam cup the second time around. And no one gave him the same attention. And I remember this person, when they were telling the story, and I heard this story, they said that the one thing I learned was that all those things that were given to that position were given to that position. They were not given to me. I was simply the person holding that position at the time. So when I came back, I didn't hold that position. I realized that that respect and those offerings were not for me, but they were for the position I held. And when I no longer had that position, they weren't for me anymore. So I didn't take offense to it. Of course, my ego was a little bruised, but I understood that it was an honor to be in that position for me as well. That was the gift. I was given that gift of the honor of having that position. And so yeah, it was interesting, because the next time around when I built TMS, I remember thinking, as a CEO of the company, I said, when people defer to me or people, honor me, they're honoring the position I'm holding. They're respecting my role as a CEO. And yes, they might respect me as well, but that attention I get, that deferment I get, that getting in line for my attention I get, has zero to do with Darius, more than likely, and has 100% to do with the fact that I'm my position of power, and that's the position they're giving deference to. And so when I left that role in 2019, it's actually 4 years ago next week, when I left that role and everything faded away, which was very quick. And again, I was 41 years old at this point. This was not my first rodeo. This is the second time this has happened to me. Yeah, look, I'm a human being. It hurt a little bit, but I understood it, and I was expecting it. And it's like anything, I used to tell people, I said, look, I'd rather you tell me when you're going to punch me in the face. At least, for those of you that have been punched in the face, you'll know, yeah, I'd rather know than not know, because when you get cold clocked from behind, you wake up and you're on the ground. Yeah, it was just one of these things where I understood it. I expected it. So that all circles back to what I've been talking about before, which is you are not your business, and I'm not my business. And that second time around at TMS, when I left, I realized I'm not my business. My business is a reflection of how I'm choosing to spend my time. It has nothing to do with who I am as a human, except it's a reflection of something I'm interested in. And so as you go out there, again, if I was to give a pep talk to 20-year-old Darius, it would be like, hey, bud, you're not your business. And what that does is that gives you agency, which is really important. It gives you a lot of agency to start to pay attention to things that you care about. Now, for me, I'm in a season right now where I'm starting a new business in private equity, Rise Growth Partners. I'm dedicating a ton of my life there, but I'm still doing some of the little stuff that I care about too. Still mentoring people. I'm still practicing ukulele. I'm thinking about the next book I want to write. I had a mentor of mine, Rand Stegan, and I spoke the other night, and he said, well, you're starting this new business with Rise, Joe Duran, who's my partner, he's, how's that going? We were talking about it. And, and he said, well, are you going to still keep doing the books and the podcast? I said, yeah. I said, of course. And the reason for that is those are things I care about. I've invested a lot of time and effort into creating them. I believe I can handle both. Obviously, I'm pulling back a little bit on how all in I am on some of the non-Rise Growth stuff, but I know I can still maintain them because I've already put those hundreds and hundreds of hours in building even the show to where it's at. So again, it's this thing where my identity is not tied to anything. My identity is not tied to doing the show. I do it because I love it. So I just want for folks to start thinking again, what will people remember you for? They're not going to remember you for what you did or what your job was or what your business was. They're going to remember you for who you were and how you made them feel, the people that matter most. And let's just be clear on that. The people that you care, know you, and love you, that's what they'll remember you for. And when you frame it in that context, it starts to, give you a little bit of an opportunity to take a step back and realize that, hey, you're not your job, that when you have that position of authority or that's the position that gets the authority, not you. You're just the person that's in the role. Because when you leave, someone else will take it. So Again, I wish this is something someone had told me. It was very painful the first time it happened to me. Less painful the second time. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but probably will. And when it does, it'll be less painful then too. And it's because I realize that I'm more than my job. I'm more than my business. I'm more than the roles I place in, and I'm just, I'm a vessel of creation for probably the higher powers, the way I look at it. And whatever role I'm in will be the role that I lean into the most to create the most value. And I'm not my role. So with that said, this is part 2 of the series. We're going to do a 10-part series. I'm going to be spending the next 10 weeks really, going over the things that I taught at the class around what things I wish I knew when I was 20 years old. And until next time, peace out. Love you guys.
You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on, so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers, and after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.